Yo, did this dirty man just walk in here like he owns the place?
The cashier said it loud. Chin up, lips curled.
Order or get out.
A cortado, please.
The first one barked a laugh.
A cortado? You don't even know what that is. Get your black coffee and go sit on the curb where you belong.
Tiff, look at him. Dude crawled out of a trash can.
Bet that card's stolen.
6 people in line. Not one opened their mouth. The man paid cash, sat down, bit into banana bread, and froze mid-bite. Not because of what they said. He'd heard worse his whole life just for existing in rooms like this. He froze because of what they said next, when they thought nobody was listening. Harold Coleman built iron brew coffee with his hands. Not a metaphor, his actual hands. 23 years ago, he welded a steel cart together in his mother's garage in Englewood, Denver. The kind of neighborhood where coffee shops didn't exist because nobody thought the people there deserved one. He was 29, broke, and stubborn enough to believe that a black man with a cart and a dream could build something that lasted. He did. One cart became a storefront. One storefront became 5. 5 became 40. Iron Brew Coffee now stretched across Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico, a specialty chain known for its seasonal menu, its hand-roasted beans, and the motto printed on every cup: everyone deserves a seat. Harold wrote that line himself, the year he opened his first real store. He was thinking about his mother, how she used to take him to a cafe downtown when he was a boy, and how the waitress always seated them by the kitchen door, never by the window. He promised himself, if he ever built something, everyone would get the window seat. Now he sat in a corner office on the 14th floor of a glass building in downtown Denver. The photo of the original cart hung on the wall behind his desk, faded, the wood still stained with espresso. He hadn't touched an espresso machine in 3 years, hadn't walked into one of his own stores as anything other than a name on a letterhead. He didn't need to. The numbers were good. Revenue up 11%, new locations in Albuquerque and Salt Lake City. The board was happy. The investors were happy. Then his assistant Lisa walked in on a Tuesday morning and dropped a folder on his desk. "You need to read these," she said. "Today." Inside, 31 printed glass door reviews for the Denver flagship, his original store, the first real location, the one he'd built with his own money before any investor said yes. The reviews were from the last 6 months. Harold read the first 3 and his stomach dropped. The cashiers looked at me like I was trespassing in my own city. I'm a 58-year-old woman. The girl at the register spoke to me like I was a stray dog. I will never go back. Hostile. Humiliating. I left my coffee on the table and walked out. Didn't even want it anymore. He kept reading. 31 reviews. 22 mentioned the same thing. Not the coffee, not the prices, not the food. The staff. The way certain customers were treated differently than others. Words repeated across the reviews like a drumbeat. Unwelcome. Ignored. Disrespected. Embarrassed. Harold pulled up the internal dashboard on his screen. The flagship store's customer satisfaction score. Dead last. Out of 40 locations. The store he built first was now the worst. He picked up the phone and called the flagship store manager, a guy named Craig. Been there 2 years, decent enough on paper. "Craig, I'm looking at the glass door numbers for your store. Walk me through what's going on." Craig's voice was calm, practiced. "Mr. Coleman, with all due respect, people leave bad reviews when they don't get free refills. It's noise. My team is solid. We're hitting our sales targets. Your customer sat score is dead last. Sir, satisfaction surveys are subjective. We can't control how people feel." Harold paused. He recognized that tone. Smooth, deflective, the voice of someone who'd rehearsed the answer before the question was asked. "I hear you, Craig," Harold said. "Appreciate your time." He hung up, stared at the phone for a long time. That night, Harold drove to the flagship store alone, parked across the street, engine off. It was 9:15, closing time. Through the glass, he could see 2 young women behind the counter. One was wiping down the espresso machine. The other was on her phone, leaning against the register. A customer walked in, a man in work boots and a paint-stained shirt. Harold watched. The cashier on her phone didn't look up, didn't greet him. The man stood at the counter for nearly a full minute before anyone acknowledged he existed. Harold gripped the steering wheel. 40 locations, thousands of employees, and the one store that was supposed to represent everything he believed in, the original, the first, the flagship, was rotting from the inside. He pulled out his phone and opened the employee schedule for the flagship. 14 names. 2 kept appearing on every high-traffic shift, Tiffany Grant and Jenna Moore. A third name caught his eye, Emma Sullivan. She was only scheduled for 5 a.m. openings and 10 p.m. closings, the dead zones, every single week. Harold stared at that name, then he started the car. Something was very wrong inside his own house, and he was going to find out what. The next morning, Harold Coleman did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He got dressed like a nobody. Worn jacket from the back of his closet. Old baseball cap. No watch. He left the Omega on the bathroom counter. No car service. He took the bus. Rode it 14 stops to Colfax Avenue and walked 2 blocks to the Denver flagship of Iron Brew Coffee, the store he'd built with money he borrowed from his mother's retirement fund. The store where he'd poured the first cup himself and handed it to a stranger for free. He pushed the door open. The bell above it chimed. Nobody looked up. Tiffany Grant was behind the register, phone in one hand, the other resting flat on the counter like she was guarding it. Jenna Moore stood at the espresso machine, scrolling through something on her screen, a towel draped over her shoulder she clearly hadn't used. Harold stepped to the counter, stood there. 5 seconds. 10. 15. A young white couple walked in behind him. Tiffany's head snapped up instantly. Bright smile. "Hey guys, welcome to Iron Brew. What can I get started for you?" She took their order. Around Harold. Like he was a pillar. Like he was furniture. He waited. The couple got their drinks. They sat down. Tiffany went back to her phone. Harold cleared his throat. "Excuse me, I'd like to order." Tiffany looked up. Her eyes traveled from his cap to his jacket to his shoes. Slow, deliberate. The way someone scans something they've already decided to throw away. "What do you want?" Not a question, a verdict. "A cortado, please, and a slice of banana bread." Tiffany tilted her head. "A cortado." She turned to Jenna. "He wants a cortado." Jenna snorted without looking up. Tiffany turned back to him, speaking slowly, the way adults speak to children who aren't theirs. "Sir, do you know what a cortado is? Or do you just want a regular black coffee? Keep it simple." Harold felt the heat climb his neck. He kept his voice level. "I know what a cortado is. I'd like one, please." Tiffany shrugged, punched it in. Didn't ask his name, just scribbled BC on the cup. He didn't ask what it stood for. He already knew. He paid cash. Tiffany took the bills with 2 fingers like she was pulling a receipt from a wet floor. Dropped his change on the counter instead of his hand. 3 coins rolled. He picked them up one by one. He took his cup and the banana bread to a corner table, sat down. The cortado was lukewarm. The banana bread was good. Actually, it was excellent. The best thing on the menu, and he hadn't even known it existed. He took a bite. And that's when he heard it. Jenna leaned across the register toward Tiffany. She didn't lower her voice, didn't even glance in his direction, as if he wasn't worth the effort of discretion. "Yo, did you see him count those coins off the counter? That was painful." Tiffany laughed. "I don't know why people like that come in here. This isn't a shelter. Go to McDonald's." "He's just gonna sit there all day, watch. Take up a table, buy 1 coffee, never tip. They never do." "At least he didn't bring his whole family. Last week that one woman brought 3 kids. 3! And let them run around like animals. I told Craig if we don't start filtering, this place is gonna look like a bus station." Jenna nodded. "For real, we need to protect the vibe. Some people just don't fit the brand, you know?" Harold set the banana bread down. His hand was steady, but his jaw was locked. He stared at the table. A coffee ring stained the wood. Probably been there for weeks. Nobody had wiped it. He pulled out his phone, opened the Notes app, typed 1 word. Rot. Then he sat there for another 45 minutes, watched, listened, saw Tiffany greet every young, well-dressed white customer with a smile and a, "Hey, babe," saw her hand a middle-aged black man his drink without a word or eye contact, saw Jenna turn away from an elderly woman to take a selfie. He finished his cortado, left the cup on the table, walked out. Nobody said goodbye, nobody said thank you, nobody even noticed he left. Harold stood on the sidewalk outside his own store, the store with his motto on every cup, "Everyone deserves a seat." He pulled out his phone and called his VP of operations. "Ray, clear my schedule for next week, all of it." "Harold, you've got the investor lunch on Thursday." "All of it, Ray. I'm going back in, not as corporate, not as the founder, as nobody. And I need you to make sure not a single person in that building knows." That night, Harold didn't sleep. He sat in his apartment, a 2-bedroom in Capitol Hill, modest for a man who owned 40 stores, and replayed every second. The eye roll, the 2-finger bill grab, the coins dropped on the counter, BC on the cup, the word filtering, the laughter that wasn't meant to be funny, it was meant to be a wall. He'd spent 52 years on the other side of walls like that. He thought he'd built a company that didn't have them. He was wrong. At 6 in the morning, he called Ray. "I need a cover. New hire, transfer trainee from the Springs location. Name in the system, Henry Williams. Can you build that?" Ray exhaled. "Harold, I can have legal and HR handle this in 48 hours. We pull the tapes, fire the 2 cashiers, done." "If I fire 2 cashiers, I fix 1 store. I want to know if the whole house is sick, Ray." Silence. "How long?" 4 days. "And if someone recognizes you?" Harold almost laughed. "I just spent an hour in my own store. The woman behind the register looked me in the eye and told me to sit on the curb. Trust me, nobody in that building has ever looked at the About page." He spent the next 2 hours preparing, trimmed his beard shorter, uneven the way a man looks when he doesn't own a mirror he likes. Went to Goodwill and bought a gray polo, dark jeans, scuffed work shoes. Then he printed the employee handbook and read all 40 pages for the first time in 2 years. What he found made him sit down. The customer experience protocol was detailed, specific. Greeting standards, service timelines, complaint resolution, all written out. But there was no enforcement mechanism, no audits, no anonymous reporting channel. The entire protocol relied on one assumption, that people would follow it because it was right. Harold closed the handbook. He thought about his mother, how she used to say, "Good intentions don't survive bad management." She was always right. He pulled up the flagship shift schedule. Tiffany Grant and Jenna Moore were on every peak shift, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., the golden hours. Emma Sullivan was scheduled for 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., then 9 p.m. to close. Every single week, for 4 months straight. The earliest mornings and the latest nights. No peak hours, no visibility, no tips worth counting. 4 months of dead zone shifts. That wasn't bad luck. That was a pattern. Harold put on the gray polo, laced the scuffed shoes. The man in the bathroom mirror didn't look like the CEO of a 40-store chain. He looked like exactly the kind of person Tiffany Grant would tell to sit on the curb. Good. He drove to the flagship and parked in the alley. The employee entrance was a narrow metal door, paint chipping, no camera. The difference between the Instagram-perfect storefront and this neglected back door told him everything about where this company's attention had gone. The break room smelled like stale coffee and microwave popcorn. A corkboard cluttered with shift notices, and on a shelf in the corner between a stack of napkins and a bottle of sanitizer, a ceramic tip jar, hand-painted. Sunflowers on one side, the Iron Brew logo on the other, done carefully with love. Nearly empty. And taped to the front, a sticky note in bubbly handwriting. "All tips go through Tiffany. See her before adding to jar." Harold photographed the note, photographed the jar, set it back down gently. Then he clocked in as Henry Williams and walked onto the floor. Day 1, morning shift. Harold was assigned to shadow the opening crew, The shift lead was Emma Sullivan, 28, Latina. Hair pulled back tight, apron already stained by 5:15 a.m. She moved behind the counter the way musicians move on stage. No wasted motion, every step deliberate. Pulled shots, steamed milk, restocked cups, wiped the bar in a continuous loop that never broke. To her, he was Henry, the new transfer who didn't know where the lids were. "Lids are under the second sink, not the first," she said without looking up. "First sink is sanitizer. Mix those up, you'll taste bleach in your espresso for a week." At 6:40 a.m., an elderly black man walked in. Tall, slow-moving, wool coat too heavy for the season. Emma's face softened. "Walter, oat milk cortado extra warm?" Walter smiled like she'd handed him something he'd lost. "You remember. Every day for 3 years. Sit down, I'll bring it over." She brought it to his table with both hands. Walter looked up. "Emma, you're the only reason I still come here." Emma smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. She went back to work. Harold waited for a gap between customers. "How long have you been here?" 4 years. "You like it?" Long pause. Her hands kept moving, wiping, sorting. She didn't look at him. "I like the coffee." That pause told Harold more than any Glassdoor review. Day 1, afternoon. At 10 a.m., the shift changed. Tiffany and Jenna walked in. The air in the store tightened like someone turned a dial. Emma went quiet, moved to the back without being told, started restocking shelves that didn't need it. Tiffany didn't greet her, just, "Did you pre-stock the oat milk? I'm not doing it again." "It's done." "It better be." Then, like flipping a switch, Tiffany became a different person. A young white couple walked in. She lit up. "Hey guys, have you tried the autumn maple cortado? Literally the best thing we've ever made." Harold blinked. The autumn maple cortado, Iron Brew's #3 seller last quarter. He didn't know who created it. A middle-aged woman in a cleaning uniform approached next. Tiffany's smile vanished. Flat voice. "What do you want?" Made the drink without a word. Set it down. No name, no have a nice day. Harold opened the register drawer to get change. Inside, wedged between the receipt paper and the bill tray, a folded index card. 2 columns, one with hearts, one with X's. Day 2, the index card. Harold waited until Tiffany went on break, pulled the card out. Hearts. Tech guy Jake, always tips $5. Instagram girl at Molly Brew, tags us, free extra shot. Blonde couple, good vibe. X's. Old guy Walter just sits, nurses 1 drink. Lady with 3 kids, messy, don't encourage. Flannel man, doesn't fit. Flannel man. That was him. The day he walked in as a customer, they'd written him down, put an X next to his existence. On the back, in Tiffany's handwriting, "If they're not brand fit, slow service, they'll leave on their own. Don't make a scene, just make it clear they're not welcome." Harold put the card back exactly where he found it. Hands steady, jaw not. This wasn't 2 young women having a bad day. This was a system. Day 2, break room. Harold sat with Emma during the afternoon break. She pulled out a small notebook and started flipping through it. Pages of recipes, seasonal drinks, pastry twists, flavor notes in the margins. "Needs more cinnamon. Try with brown sugar syrup." She stopped on a page. "The autumn maple cortado." "You created this?" She nodded. "Gave it to Ron last fall. He said he'd submit it through regional." "And?" "Went on the menu. Sold like crazy." "Your name on it?" "No. Ron listed it as his initiative." She turned more pages. Summerberry cold brew, holiday spice latte, banana pecan bread. All hers. All credited to Ron. "I stopped writing my name on them." She closed the notebook. "What's the point?" Harold typed under the table, "Emma Sullivan, 4 recipes confirmed. 0 credit, 0 raise." Day 3, Ron Hadley visits. Harold smelled him before he saw him. Cologne, sharp, expensive, too much. Employees stiffened, Conversation stopped. Ron Hadley, regional manager, 48, tall, tan, perfect haircut. He walked in like he owned the store. Ironic, considering the actual owner was standing